Hello world, my name is Obakeng Timopi and I'm really excited to bring you today's conversation, and I'll be talking with Alphonse and Ndzinge about exponential growth in the middle of crisis. Now we all know that crisis is an inevitable ingredient for a rich experience. I mean, there's absolutely nothing you can achieve in life if you're not ready and willing to fight and win amidst crisis, So to further that conversation and understand what we need to do about exponential growth, I'm here today with Mr. Alphonse Ndzinge. My good sir.
Greetings.
Would you kindly take a moment and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Obakeng.
Yes.
My name is Alphonse Ndzinge.
Yes, sir.
I'm the managing director of Kgori Capital.
Mm-hmm.
Kgori Capital is an investment management firm,
independent,
100% citizen-owned. It started in 2012. As a proud Botswana and member of the business community, I'd like to thank you and Botswana Careers Roundtable for allowing me to be part of this exciting conversation.
Amazing. Thank you so much for making time in your busy schedule to have this conversation with us.
You're most welcome.
Yeah. So as you know, today's mandate is essentially to try and empower young Botswana, not only young Botswana, but everyone as a whole, to try and make them understand from your perspective as well as various other perspectives of what it takes to grow in the middle of crisis.
Yes.
And, we allocated this topic specifically to you because we believe that you have everything it takes. I mean, 2012 to date, that's about 9-10 years in between. Well, slightly more than that. My math is a bit off, you know what I mean? But if you've been able to start a company, Kgori Capital in 2012, I remember 2008, between 2008 and 2010, we had that economic global crunch.
Yes.
So you started a company more or less in a crisis.
Yes.
Yeah. How have you been able to grow yourself from that position to get to where you are right now?
Thank you for the question. It's
Yes,
been quite a very long and interesting journey. I think speaking to the challenges that we're currently dealing with today and what we've gone through in the last, call it 10 years, it has been filled with episodes of crisis, of uncertainty.
Yeah.
But the important thing is just to remain focused, have a plan, have a strategy, and always be consistent on your execution. So I think that's probably allowed us to stem the tide, if I'd like to call it that.
Okay, great. We haven't even gone any further in this conversation, and you've really talked about consistency and, being able to navigate crisis. But first, let's try and talk about what crisis is. Let's try and define crisis. You know what I mean? Sure, we're going through COVID times and it's a global pandemic and everyone is hit and hit hard. But how are you going to say that this is how do you define crisis in your own words?
I think crisis there can be multiple definitions, but I think the critical thing is that it's really around uncertainty. And it's finding yourself in an environment where you are not really sure of what the future holds. And this is just a fact of life, and it's a fact of managing and running a business. It's quite important that you can plan and mitigate around those. The critical thing is that for most businesses, what they have is what they call a disaster recovery plan. And in order to implement that, you expect certain things to happen. But this crisis is quite unique. It's very unanticipated.
Definitely.
So you just have to be able to adapt to the new reality, or the new norm is quite properly phrased as today.
Okay.
So I think from our perspective, it's quite important that when you see these challenges coming, you as a business, you're always nimble in your approach. You have a good plan. You inform your key stakeholders around your plan, and you have a good team around that crisis management.
Okay, great. Okay, so you talk about uncertainty.
So,
in the 9-10 years that you've been running Kgori Capital, would you say that every day is a day of uncertainty, or you wake up knowing that you're going to do this today and it's going to happen this way? Did you see yourself being here where you are all of 9 years later?
I think the important thing is to think long term. I think we know where we want to be. How we're definitely going to get there on a day-to-day basis is quite volatile.
Okay.
It changes. Some days there are episodes, particularly when you have a management role and you have to lead a team.
Okay.
The environment is always changing.
Great.
But I mean, what's important is you're on a journey and you know where your destination is. So I think in terms of where we are and where we wanted to be, I think we're in line with that.
Great.
It's been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But I think that's what life is, and I think that's what the experience of being an entrepreneur is about.
Well, and I think there's a great misconception because you see, you tell me that there's a roller coaster, and obviously when you say roller coaster, you mean it goes up and it goes down, right? Me as the layman, as the ordinary Botswana or the ordinary individual that's on the outside looking in, I could look at your organization and look at the kind of life that you lead and then assume, his roller coaster is not like my roller coaster, you know what I mean? His is an upward curve all throughout, you know? Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how it is, like how do you manage your lows and how do you manage your highs? And do you even have lows, if at all I should ask that question?
No, that's a very good question, and I think it's good to put it into context. I think it's never easy to compare one person's challenges to another, or one businesses to another. I mean, small business challenges are very different from big, large cap, even blue chip companies. I think the critical thing is that for most businesses, what they have is what they call a disaster recovery plan. And in order to implement that, you expect certain things to happen. But this crisis is quite unique. It's very unanticipated.
Definitely.
So you just have to be able to adapt to the new reality, or the new norm is quite popularly phrased as today. So I think from our perspective, it's quite important that when you see these challenges coming, you as a business, you're always nimble in your approach. You have a good plan. You inform your key stakeholders around your plan, and you have a good team around that crisis management.
Great.
Yes.
Now, I'm not like you, Alphonse. You know, I don't wake up and handle hundreds of millions of people's money. How's that pressure for you? I mean, I'm curious. Other people are curious too. How's that pressure for you?
I think it's another good question. I think it's one of those things that you learn and you grow and you develop with over time. I, for instance, have been in this industry for just under 18 years. I have a very experienced and strong support system at the office. We have very strong and world-class systems. So it is a challenge, but I think with the experience and the support structures, I mean, we have a very strong embedded governance culture in the organization. We have a very good board. So all of these factors combined allow you to do this in an environment that is less risky, and it allows you to sleep at night. But it is a lot of pressure because you're really looking after people's livelihoods.
Definitely.
So we do take a lot of care and put a lot of importance on what we do.
Okay. Now you brought us back to exponential growth now. Yes. You speak about growth there. So now tell me, I mean, you brought up the issue of mindset, right?
Yes.
In order for your mindset to be attuned to being able to see positivity amidst turbulent times such as pandemics like COVID-19, I mean, this is definitely, from what we can look at history, this is definitely not the first time, nor is it the last time that we're going to find ourselves in situations such as this.
Yes.
So how do you fix your mindset as Alphonse? I just want to know, like, how's your day to day? Like, how do you make certain that your mindset is on tune and making certain that regardless of what's happening, I'm going to wake up and show up?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I think the most important thing for me personally is you have to have a holistic approach. And it's really around getting that work-life balance that everybody speaks of, trying to get that correct. And it's a constant struggle, but I think it's important that you have a good support structure. You spend time with your family, looking after yourself, you're eating well. If you're interested in working out, you're working out. And then also you also have the support of your team. So I think it's one of those things that where you're looking at your well-being on a holistic basis.
how do I keep myself motivated? It's very easy to let prolonged isolation get to you, and especially it depends on who you are. People get affected by isolation differently, especially if you're far away from your family. You find that it affects you more. If you're a social person, you struggle to be in spaces that are where you're away from people, basically. And so the game changer for me was one day I just sat down and made an active decision to get into healthier eating habits and start my fitness journey. For me, having like daily goals, having those daily goals to work towards, and having an exercise routine, and looking forward to making my own meals as opposed to going out and buying takeout.
Gompieno bontsi ba ditiro di hukuditse batho di retrenchitse batho tse dingwe ba tswetse difeme ba tswetse so gore re ka bokhutshwana ra palo ya batho ba ne re ba pega e hokotsegile gore re so far re pega gongwe 50% kana 40% ya batho ba nentse re ba pega le mo letseno la rona yano re simotsa go reka di-sanitizer beke le beke re reka di-mask dilo tse ne re seke re di reka gompieno a ke reka sanitizer ya 30 pula beke le beke gore ke dirisa more than 100 pula ka kgwedi for sanitizer ya le nosi.
Inga affectile ka gore sengwe se change-itse itshulelo ile kwa tlase di price mo shopong di ile go godimo le vete ke yone re bolayang a ba kwa ba re akanyetsa ka vete gore ba intshe ka gore ke yone dirileng go sengwe se go godimo a ba re akanyetse ka yone ka gore ka yone e setse le go godimo thata ba dire seng ke akantse gore sengwe a re thusa gore re kgone go thatoga ka gore ga go ntsana di-business di ile go tlase thata ana ba ka re thusa ka sengwenyana se se sa dueleng gore tafole di kgone go ya go godimonyana mo be something.
So your network of people that you keep is very important to your success at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I think what I've identified through this journey is that we often don't appreciate the value of mentors.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah,
because a lot of the experiences and this roller coaster that we referred to earlier is a lot of individuals have actually gone through those experiences.
Yeah,
and I'm currently being mentored, and I do mentor a few individuals.
So
I think it's one of those things where you should not feel isolated. I think it helps me also with this mindset. You should not feel isolated when you are going through a crisis or challenges. There are support structures out there.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's how you've been able to amass this much success in such a short space of time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Speaking of networks, yes. I believe the reason we're sitting here today, I'm going to take it back about 9, 8, 7 years ago when we first met, if you remember that time, right? Let me drop a bomb and let them know. So the first time I met Alphonse was on a private jet, right?
That is true.
That was a crazy story. Yeah. And I believe that is because we met during those circumstances, during that time in our own professional spheres,
yes.
And we were able to then exchange information and then keep in touch. And eventually now we're here having this conversation to try and inspire and impact not only Botswana, but the entire world at large.
Yes.
So I like what you say when you say that networks and mentorships and support systems are actually very important, because in as much as I might have had this relationship with you for so long, we never really put it to task until now, when we're now saying, look, Alphonse, let's try and help young people, not just young people, let's try and help all people, and speak about your experience and how it is, you know what I mean? So you talk about general well-being. I mean, I was bringing that point up of where we met to sensitize them and further stress the point of how networking is important. You never know who you'll need, when you'll need them, how you'll need them. But let's talk about well-being. You're talking about well-being. You're saying that's crucially important into your general and all-rounded success. Well, I get this question asked a lot, and maybe I should throw it over to you. So, what do you do for fun?
Thank you. I spend a lot of time with my friends and my family.
Okay.
I do also do exercise when I can.
When you can,
So it's quite important. I think when we're speaking about well-being, I think obviously it's getting a lot of prominence now, but it's extremely important. Is not just the physical, but the mental. Mental wellness. So I think you just have to always look after yourself and make sure that you put yourself first.
Okay. All right, that's amazing. Well, we got some interview. I mean, we had a lot of opinions on the streets that we got from various people from all walks of life, you know what I mean? And people vary. Where like during a crisis such as now, we obviously had to make certain that the conversation that you and I want to have is aligned to everyone's expectations.
Yes.
And like I was telling you before we went on here, we had a lot of people from different levels, different walks of life, and they were basically, they're in a position where they tend to face the government. I mean, look at how Botswana is. Botswana is a very great ecosystem for us because we've been provided with free healthcare, free education. I mean, from pre-primary all the way up to tertiary, and you get paid to go to school for this. So in essence, at the end of the day is, if the government has been taking care of me all my life, I might inadvertently expect for the government to then give me a job. And equally alike, this is what we're hearing from the people on the streets, you know what I mean? Different people we've interviewed and asked about how COVID-19 has been treating them over the past year and how they're navigating their new normal towards success. A lot of them have spoken about how, they're looking for the government to create more jobs. They're looking for, the government to reduce tax levels and all of that. But I feel like the private sector plays a large role, not only the private sector, but it first begins with an individual. And I think it speaks of today's discussion because our conversation is exponential growth in the middle of crisis. And I'm going to take you back a bit because I love what you said just earlier when you said adaptability is key. You know what I mean? Your business needs to run on the nimble. So you're a leader and have been a leader. And I imagine being a leader, in as much as you have mentors, your mentor isn't going to tell you that, look, Alphonse, tomorrow this is what's going to happen and you're going to handle it A, B, C. There's no real blueprint. It's just it's a general picture and you're given equipment with which you need to run and resourcefully make your company successful. So I want to talk about adaptability. What would you say to the young person who might look at you and aspire to be where you are, or even aspire to work for an organization such as yourself? How important is adaptability in making yourself better, in exponential growth in the middle of crisis? How I would like just speak to me on that.
Thanks. I think in terms of a skill set, I think it's probably one of the most important to any individual. Whether it's in your career or if you are getting into entrepreneurship. It's one of those things that it's difficult to teach or define, but it's just appreciate that the world is constantly changing,
definitely.
And there's a lot of different idioms, like one is pivoting. Like when there's a challenge or when there's a crisis, you have to introspect and say, okay, look, what should I be doing? Should I continue to do what I'm doing the way I'm doing it, or should I adapt? And if the market is changing, if the regulatory environment is changing, if your customers' preferences are changing. So all of these things should constantly be on top of mind. I think from I can speak from my personal perspective in our industry, we've seen a whole degree of changes throughout our experiences. I think one of them, for example, would be now there's a big focus on sustainable investments. So even the way we think about investing has changed. We're looking at things like the environment, the social implications of investing, and even governance. Governance is a huge factor. I mean, when I started, the amount of weighting or that we used to put in on governance factors for the investments we made is much different than what it is today. And that's just an example in my profession. And the same would apply to other professions. I mean, look with what's happened with this pandemic that we're currently experiencing. We've seen ballooning of or the exponential growth of digital infrastructure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Technology advances have been phenomenal. A lot of people have had to adapt by working from home.
Definitely.
Organizations have had to change their structures and how people work together and engage and interact on a daily basis. So those are just a few examples of how adaptability is so critical for organizations or even at the individual level.
Oh, okay. I like what you're saying, because just 2 years ago, forget 2 years ago, just last year, if I would have said to you, hey, listen, Alphonse, let's have a meeting tomorrow 9 a.m., but we'll have it on Zoom, I would have felt like, or you would have felt like, this guy thinks I will sit on my laptop and have a meeting with him. He doesn't have time for me. Like, I would have taken that the wrong way, or you could have taken that the wrong way. Today, it's a necessity in order for us to do business, right? So this is more or less what we've been talking about with the fourth industrial revolution. I think we're walking in the age of information now, and the digital transfer is making things much easier for us to operate with one global village. So adaptability really is important, right? But what do you think the future is looking like now? I mean, now everything is going digital. And here we are in Botswana. We have great internet, we have great digital infrastructure, but we're not quite there yet, right? So what do you think you would have to say to the young person? I mean, we just in wrapping up our conversation, what do you think you have to say to a young person who might want to position themselves for the future? How should they try to navigate their new normal towards success? What advice would you have for them?
Okay, thanks. I think particularly around this digital world and where we're going, I think what's quite important is the ability to leapfrog. So developments that used to take 10 or 20 or 30 years, that level of progression can happen now within a month or 2 months or even 6 months. So so I think for the young individual who's whether looking for career opportunities or looking at starting their own business, I think that they're perfectly poised to actually have an impact a lot quicker. I think they should just really remain focused, be consistent with their values, and identify what's their purpose, what do they want to accomplish. A lot of times people, when they look for opportunities, and which is you're trying to fix a problem or solve a problem, which is one of the things that drove us to actually start Kgori Capital in 2012, where we saw a gap where we really wanted to build a business that represented the true needs of the Botswana saver.